Hello everyone, this is Eflex and welcome back to another A Producer's Approach video. In this video we're going to be looking at Haywyre's live performance of Endlessly. So if you guys haven't watched my videos in the past, I basically break down these videos into 3 separate sections. I have an intro backstory section, then a breakdown analysis section, and then lastly an outro section. So this is Haywyre's live performance of his song Endlessly, which is part of his Twofold Part 2 album, which is again really good. This song is pretty interesting. So this is the first time I think Haywyre actually added different bits into his live performance that were different than his actual recorded version. If you listen to the recorded version of Endlessly, there aren't as many piano riffs and different pitch bends in the leads when he's playing them in this live performance. So personally for me, when I want to listen to Haywyre's song Endlessly, even though I have the song on my phone, like the studio recorded version, I always would prefer to listen to this live performance version because there's just a little more things he added in this version than he did the studio recorded version, just because it was more of the live performance aspect and he did it on the fly kind of while recording this video. So it's really cool there. And this, much like Insight, is also one of the other videos that kind of define the style of what Haywyre's kind of live performance video style is, which is pretty similar to what Temonite and Oblivion kind of follow in that same structure for their live performance videos. And this was also one of the first videos where lights were really utilized in the live performance videos with the keyboard. So the style of Oblivion's live performance videos with all the different lights and stuff, this was probably the video that inspired that and started kind of the more light performance and more kind of electronic performance using lights and different camera angles and different lighting and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting how that kind of, you know, paved way for a certain look for the live performance videos. But anyways, this is Haywyre's song Endlessly, the live performance. We'll get into it and I'll talk about different parts of the live performance while I break down the song. So let's get started. All right, so that beginning section, there's a lot even happening in that section. So you hear the kind of chord plucks starting off, which I really like. You hear piano play, a little riff, and then Haywyre starts playing the piano, and which is really cool. And then you kind of hear a pad build up in the background as well as the chord, the plucks kind of playing the chord progression. They start to kind of fade out a little bit in this transition section, and then you kind of hear a vocal chop of what the vocal is going to be saying in this next section. So like the vocoded vocals kind of chopped up with one syllable, kind of like a more traditional vocal chop, but instead of using like a reverse reverb tail attached from a syllable at the beginning of the vocal and reversing it, he did like a vocal chop kind of leading into the vocal vocoded vocal sample itself. So that's really cool. That's a more unique way to transition, and you can just tell already that this is a very different style than Temonite and Oblivion. So we'll keep going, and you can tell that this is also a Nord stage 2. So that is the kind of staple, the Nord keyboards for these live performance videos. So let's keep going.
Every step you take, attention is left in your wake. Every way you see, blinded yet infinitely. Spectrum of a time, takes from nature to the line. Each instance proves to be a moment reaching endlessly.
All right. So that section's really cool. You hear the vocoded vocals singing. You hear the percussion in the background. It's like a hi-hat and like a clap, it almost sounds like, playing together. You do hear the kick kind of come in every once in a while, but it's kind of to start like a new measure. You kind of hear the kick just come in once, but it's pretty low. And you just kind of have his piano fills playing the chord progression, which is really cool. And then there also is like a synth pad also playing in the background to just kind of give the flow of where the vocoded vocals are following that kind of chord progression, which is really cool. And overall, this section is really good. And then it kind of has this transitions section here where I guess you can call this like a breath of air, but it kind of has like a sound design sound that Haywyre made where it kind of glitches, and then like the lead just comes in and he just kind of goes into, you know, typical Haywyre live performance style. So it's really cool, and let's keep it going. All right, so that was technically the first drop, which is really cool. The percussion rhythm is in more of like a halftime rhythm, which is really cool. The percussion is really kind of not really electronic sounding, sounds a little more acoustic, in a sense where it's not like it's a manufactured sound, I guess you'd say. It sounds like something you could record with a microphone. You have that Haywyre lead sound, which is just super good, and then you saw him playing on the keys. What's really interesting is that the bass line, or the bass kind of mid bass, or the mid bass sound, or even the bass line, plays along with what he's playing in the lead section. So however long the duration of the note is and just which notes he's playing, like the bass line is pretty much following along as well, with the note notation being the same duration as what he's kind of playing. So if it's like a quarter note, like the bass line is playing a quarter note, and you can kind of hear the gaps in between the sections, and the sub also follows that as well. So it's pretty interesting how what he's playing kind of all kind of follows what he's playing on the keyboard. Either he's, you know, playing in the higher octave with his lead sound along with the bass line, or the bass line is following what he's playing, which is pretty interesting. I never really noticed that before, but what I do like is that transitionary sound in the middle that goes bum ba da da da. Like, I don't even know what kind of sound that is. It just sounds kind of robotic, but it's just really cool. Very unique Haywyre sound design sound, which is really cool. And you know, it's just really like a nice sound to hear. And this kind of, I would say, is, I don't know if this is his glitch hop style or more of electronic style, but it's definitely more within that style of, you know, Haywyre's music. So yeah, that's pretty much what I noticed. There's some hi-hats playing along, but really the main percussion is in a halftime rhythm, but there is a kick that comes in a little more frequently than just the one, and the one kick on one and then the snare on three. There might be a kick in between every once in a while to give it some extra variation and flow. So anyways, that section's really good. You kind of see Haywyre's debut style of, you know, the pitch bending, playing the lead sounds and certain notes. So and you can see the light show behind him, so it's definitely really cool. So anyways, let's keep going. All right, so that part is really cool. You have this pad sound that's kind of dreamy, euphoric sounding, and That's really cool because it pairs really well with what he's playing in terms of like the lead sound he's playing. So it's kind of like a nice kind of contrast to what was happening before with kind of the lead drop section, then transitions to that more kind of dreamy euphoric kind of almost bell chime type sound, which is kind of like a nice ambience or ambient sound, and then plays along with his lead. And then here he kind of transitions with his lead sound into a more active, synth sound, synth lead. So then the percussion might even come in the section as well. So let's keep it going. All right, now that section was pretty crazy. That kind of dreamy section was, I almost want to say, the break in between the first drop. That was like literally the whole first drop, which is pretty crazy. So this section changes. I don't know if the percussion changes as much, but his lead sound changes in certain points where he goes into a different octave. And I noticed that the bass sound changed to like more of a almost piano sounding sound, where like the piano was playing the chord progression on the bottom. And then there's more kind of percussion stops, I guess you say, or he cuts out the percussion a little bit more in the section to exaggerate ends of phrases, which is really cool. Just kind of really cool to get that kind of exaggeration, especially when he's, doing keyboard sweeps almost like with notes on his keyboard, so like kind of exaggerates that sound a little bit more. And overall this section is just really good. It just kind of is a little bit different from the first drop, and then separates it out with a little bit of a dreamy section and transitions with him playing the notes in the beginning, and then just transitions to this section, which is really nice and kind of really showcases his piano skills and style and just the overall, I don't know, mastery of how Haywyre plays on the keyboard. So anyways, that part was really good. Nice pairing between the lead sound and the bass sound, which changed from that more synthetic to almost what it sounded like a piano sound to me, and just kind of the showcasing of his keyboarding style. So now is the break section where it kind of calms down a little bit, and I think it transitions more into the piano sound that he plays on his keyboard. So let's keep it going. All right, so I just want to pause it there. So you have almost like the same or maybe a little bit different kind of ambient sound from the beginning of the song. I thought I heard this kind of ambient sound towards the beginning of the song, but it could be a little bit different. And it pairs really nicely with the piano, kind of similar to how he started the song. With the piano and just kind of a more ambient sound, transitioning after those plucks. And then you kind of have the vocal chop of the vocoded vocals kind of coming back in again. And after that, it transitions into kind of a similar section where the vocoded vocals come back in and he's playing on the piano. And then you kind of have the percussion come back for a little bit. So anyways, just wanted to compare that to the last section. So let's keep going.
Attention is left in your wake. Everywhere you see, blinded it infinitely. Spectrum of a time, makes from nature.
All right, so that section's really cool. It's similar in regards to the percussion. Playing in the quote unquote build up before the last before the first drop. What I like about this section is how the coded vocals kind of drop. Instead of there being a glitch leading up to it, they kind of just like pitch bend and drop, and then he kind of has like an off drop that he's building up to here, where he plays the lead, and then the chord progression starts, and then the percussion comes in later. So it's really cool in this section. I didn't notice any VFX, which is also really cool in this section. I don't know if there was that much VFX either building into the first drop, but this drop I know there wasn't really a VFX really building the tension into the second drop, which is really cool. So anyways, it's just kind of nice how the structure was similar but a little bit different. The percussion playing with the hi-hat, and then the kind of clap with the higher timbre playing, just kind of to give it some flow, and then just that kind of detuning of the vocoder vocals is really nice. Transitioning, but the vocoder vocals being paired with the piano he's playing along with the chord progression is also really nice as well, with that kind of ambient kind of pad sound in the background, just giving it some fullness in the mix. So anyways, let's keep going into the second drop, and let's enjoy. All right, so within that second drop, it's pretty similar in terms of structure to the first part of the first drop, the first part of the first drop, because the first drop is actually pretty long with the kind of transitionary break section. So the percussion is pretty much the same, the rhythm similar with the halftime rhythm. So I listened to more of the percussion this time. To lead into the drop itself, there is a kick that plays along with the notes he's playing, but is not playing the snare. So it plays the kick and then plays the kick again, and then goes into the regular kind of percussion rhythm, which is really nice, like kind of when the second drop kind of really starts. So it's a little bit different than off drop, because some of the off drops, they don't start the percussion first. Like the sounds come in, then the percussion comes in a little bit later, which is kind of nice for this to be a little bit different in terms of like an off drop, I guess you'd say. But I like the kind of use of the crashes and the cymbals he used in the background for the percussion, because it really kind of exaggerates certain sections where he kind of gives like a certain pause or a certain exaggeration to certain sounds, where it's not like a whole note playing, like he cuts off the whole note and there's like a gap and then plays the note again. So it's pretty cool. Like when there's exaggerations in the percussion, like those crashes hits, and it's just really cool there. And then some of the other sound effects that you hear, like you hear the bo, and then there's kind of like I don't know what that sound is, but you kind of hear it towards the end of the second drop. Towards the end, it's like at the end of like a measure, I guess you'd say, and you kind of hear that kind of almost like an arpeggiated sound in the background, which is really cool. I didn't really notice that before, and that could have played in the first drop and I just missed it, but in this drop I definitely focused a little bit more on the other sounds. So that was really cool to hear that there are different transitionary sounds, and that he gives more variation in the percussion playing along with the lead synth, and just the overall song is not just like a straight 4 and the 4 beat, or halftime beat. Like there is like a kick and then a kick playing certain sections where it kind of cuts out, and there's like almost like a little bit of like a glitchiness type feeling, which is really cool. And anyways, it's a little bit different in this section because this drop isn't as long. And then this is going to be the rest of the outro, which is just him playing on the keyboard with the piano sound along with the pad. So that's really nice. It's a little different than a lot of the other live performance videos. So let's listen to the outro, and then I'll talk more after that. All right, that was Haywyre's song "Endlessly," the live performance, and we'll back up to that outro section. So it's really cool how the pad kind of plays right after the drop when he starts playing on the piano, like in the piano's sound using his keyboard. And that pad eventually kind of fades out, and then the piano just becomes the main focus to outro. And the way in which he plays the piano just reminds me a lot of like a jazz player playing piano. I don't know, it reminds me a lot of like jazz music in a sense. And I know Haywyre has previously said in some of his live streams in the past, and just certain things you hear from the comment section, that he has a lot of influence from jazz music. So you can kind of see that in his live performance here. So I just like the live kind of jazzy feeling of the pianos that you hear in this section of the song. But overall, this live performance is really good. A lot of the pianos in this song or in this live performance video, you don't really hear in the actual recorded version, which is kind of why I like to listen to this live performance video. Some takeaways. I mean, I love that intro pluck. I mean, that's just kind of, once I hear that intro pluck, I know that's Endlessly, and those vocoded vocals are just so good. I like how he used the vocal chops of the vocoded vocal before the vocoded vocals came in. That's really unique. I've actually not ever heard any artists do that before, to kind of transition into the vocals, which is interesting. I like that first drop. It's really cool how he just, fleshed that out. Like, it's like pretty much two drops in one with a little bit of a break section. So it kind of goes, it has a lot of energy, and then it kind of has a more euphoric, dreamy feeling where he plays a synth along, and then like kind of plays the two notes, and then transitions into like another more energetic section within that drop. So it's really cool. For that first drop there. I love the transitions into each drop. Like, I like how they're different, and I like how he didn't really use the VFX. He used the synth sound in itself to really kind of exaggerate those sounds transitioning into the drop section. So that was really cool. The use of his piano sound is really good. I always love his sound design lead sound. That's always really unique to Haywyre, and you can tell that's like a Haywyre song off the bat. And the outro is really nice, actually. It's really peaceful, a really good way to end the video, and just the song itself with the piano solo. So Anyways, I hope you guys like this video. Check Haywyre's music out if you haven't. And you could tell that this was recorded in the Monstercat studio since the Monstercat plushie is there. And you could kind of tell how this was the kind of start of using a lot of light shows with this structure and style of video. So anyways, I hope you guys like this video, and I'll see you guys in the next 8 Producers Approach video. All right, have a good one, everyone. Peace.